We got 30 minutes here, so I'm gonna race through a whole bunch of stuff. My name's Alon. We're gonna talk today about a crazy project that me and Matt Inman, who's sitting right here, worked on. And yeah, let's just get right to it. So I'm kind of addicted to Kickstarter. I've backed way too many projects, probably more than 200 at this point, and they are some of the craziest, most ridiculous things you've ever seen. I thought I'd show you a few of my favorites. This is an actual functioning hoverboard, which has not shipped yet. This is someone who tried to replace the umbrella with an air umbrella. Literally this pole you hold in your hand, and it's got an engine in it, and it blows air upwards, and it's supposed to blow the rain out of your way because something's wrong with regular umbrellas. That was a fun one to back. This is finger surfing. You know, you're riding in a car, you put your hand out the window, and you sort of surf up and down on the air. This is a little surfboard that you can hold on your fingers. And yeah, Kickstarter's a great place. This is my favorite one of all time. I've always wanted to own jellyfish, and someone else had that dream, and so they launched the jellyfish aquarium that you can have on your desktop. Jellyfish are really hard to own because they're really fragile creatures. Anything they touch kills them. They just disintegrate. And so you can't have them in a square tank because they constantly hit things, the walls and rocks and stuff, and they die. So they made this circular tank, and it has a flow of water that constantly moves in a circle. So when the jellyfish get near a wall, they get brushed back into the center, and they're safe. The problem is there's no filter, so they put a bunch of rocks at the bottom. I think you can see where this is going. And it got so bad, not only did they kill all my jellyfish, but they sent me more jellyfish, and all those died. And it got so bad that a local newspaper finally published a story. Local entrepreneur creates jellyfish slaughterhouse. And that was a fun thing on Kickstarter. So today, I want to tell you about a game that Matt and I launched on Kickstarter. It did really well. Of course, the game I'm talking about is called Bomb Squad. And the way the Bomb Squad worked, I've always wanted to make a physical game. I've been making digital games and video games for 15 years now. I've always wanted to make a physical one. Bomb Squad was a really simple game. All we did was we took a regular deck of cards, we put a few jokers inside that deck, put it face down on the table, and we took turns drawing cards until someone drew a joker, and then that person was dead. It wasn't much fun at first until we added all kinds of extra rules about ways to skip your turn and ways to screw over other players at the table. And it started to get really fun. The problem was it had no soul, had no story, it had no reason to really keep playing other than the raw game mechanics. And then in November of last year, I met Matt, who is the author and illustrator and creator and creative brain behind the Oatmeal. You guys know what the Oatmeal is? Some fans, yeah, all right. We'll say hi to Matt afterwards, he's sitting right here. I'm gonna show you some examples of some of the more awesome stuff that Matt has made. Woman wearing a t-shirt, 3 great little check boxes about said t-shirt and women in it. And here's the same with a man. I don't do these justice, so I'm mostly just going to flip through some of my favorite Oatmeal comics of all time. I'll just wait for this one. He also recently drew one specifically for Exploding Kittens. Sort of like cow walks into a bar joke. There you go. Okay, so I met Matt, we hung out, I showed him the game. He really liked the game. He's always wanted to do an Oatmeal game, and I showed him Bomb Squad, and he said, this is great. It's a really cool game mechanic. Why don't you let me illustrate the cards? We'll become partners in this thing. And the one thing is we have to change the name to something a little bit more catchy because, you know, the internet. And Exploding Kittens was born. And we launched this thing, and our marketing campaign, our marketing strategy was basically just, let's just tweet about this. We'll put it up on the Oatmeal Twitter, we'll put it up on Facebook, and that'll be about it. And our goal all along was to be number one, the number one game on Kickstarter. Because if you're gonna do something, you might as well, you know, swing for the stars, like aim as big as you can. Here's the top 4 games on Kickstarter. Number 1 is the Booyah, which was a gaming console. It cost about $100. It's a really slick piece of hardware. Top-selling game in crowdfunding history. And we thought, well, if we're going to aim at anything, let's aim at those guys. And when we first launched, we did really well, like really well. And all we did was posted on the Oatmeal's Twitter account and Facebook page. And we thought, we're on top of the world. This is great. And it continued to go really, really well. Our first few days were just stellar. And we did things like this. And it continued to go really, really well. For a card game, right? This is $20 at a time. It was really amazing. But then, a lot of you guys who may have done Kickstarter campaigns know this pattern. Here's the first few days of our campaign. Really well, but look at that trend. Scarier and scarier and scarier. And after our first week, we all knew where this is going. And we realized we had to do something about this. And because we didn't want this to just bottom out. A lot of campaigns have a really nice last day, but this trend, clearly we had tapped a huge market, we attracted a lot of attention, but we had to do something else if we wanted to ever get to that #1 spot. So I'm a data nerd. I obsess over numbers. I love analyzing the things that other people have done. I looked at the Booyah campaign, and I decided to look at what they did on a day by day. And you see that same trend, right? They opened big, and then they went down, and they had a little micro spikes here and there, and then a huge finish. And that's how they made their money. And so then the next thing I did was I tore open their message board. What did you guys do every single day as far as people talking on the website, on Kickstarter? And what's really interesting about this data is there's a really nice, easy to see correlation. The more people talk about your product, the more money you make that day. It's kind of eerie how similar those two charts are. And this points to something really obvious. Build a good community and you'll get more money. And we thought, what we got to do now is kickstart our community. And we have to change the way that we think about this. And I realized I've kind of been training for this my whole life. I'm really good at building communities, at getting people excited about stuff that they normally wouldn't even pay any attention to or wouldn't notice. One great example was Halo 2. I worked on Halo 1 when I was at Microsoft. For Halo 2, Microsoft came to me and they said, we really need your help marketing Halo 2. And I was like, you don't need my help marketing Halo 2. Halo 2 is going to be huge. And they said, no, we really need it to be a cultural phenomenon. And I thought, all right, cultural phenomenon, a story about aliens invading the Earth. This has already been done. This is Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. And so me and my team wrote, directed, produced a 6-hour radio drama about aliens invading the Earth. Takes place right inside the Halo universe, except we did something a little special with it. We decided to call the project I Love Bees, and instead of broadcasting it over the radio, like you'd expect a radio drama, we decided to broadcast it over payphones. Tens of thousands of ringing payphones all over the world. You're walking down the street, a phone rings, all you do is you walk by, you pick it up, you say hello, and it's someone on the other end saying, oh my God, thank God you answered the phone. Whatever you do, don't hang up. Listen, I need your help. And then they bring you into the story. And one by one, the audience started piecing together all the little bits of story on all these ringing payphones all over the place and working as a community to reconstruct a story and fall into this immersive fiction that we created for that campaign. Now, what happens when you start to do stuff like that is the mundane act of answering a phone suddenly becomes a huge community event. Suddenly you invite your friends to go out and answer a randomly ringing payphone. Suddenly you wear costumes. Suddenly you build bits of the story yourself, and you tell all your friends about this thing because of that amazing momentum that happens around these community events when you gamify the regular world. So that was a big lesson for me. That was something I knew we really had to hold on to. I'm going to tell you about another example called Vanishing Point. This was another Microsoft project. Microsoft came to me when they were launching Vista, and they said, we want you to build a scavenger hunt for us, but we want this scavenger hunt to be the size of the planet. We want no one to have ever seen anything of this scale before. And I thought, that sounds really awesome. So me and my team, we went and we built the world's largest scavenger hunt. And we did things like building projection. All over the world, we picked out famous landmarks, and we flooded them with these images. And the images, everything you see here is a clue. The colors, the orientation, the shapes. You had to track all of them, go to a website, track what you were seeing, and figure out how it all fit into the fiction. We did skywriting. If any of you guys have ever seen skywriting in the sky, the problem with it is when you want to write a full word, by the time you get to the last letter, the first letter is already too blurry to really make out. So we invented a new kind of skywriting. We took 5 airplanes and flew them all in a line across the sky. And each one had a computer in the back and a smoke machine that just let out single puffs of smoke. And it worked like a dot matrix printer. They kind of flew in parallel, leaving puffs of smoke behind them so that we could get entire sentences, in this case arrow clues, out before the first one they put out faded. It was really fun, worked really well. We did the largest fireworks display in Seattle's history. Every explosion, every color, the direction of the explosions, all of these were clues to this crazy scavenger hunt. And the whole goal here was like, how do we embed these clues in the real world? How do we make everything part of a game so that everywhere you look, you're actually playing this game? I'm going to tell you my favorite example now, which was the Bellagio Hotel. The Bellagio Hotel, you guys been to Bellagio? Do you know what I'm talking about? Big fountains outside the Bellagio, right? A huge lake. And they've got these fountains that dance to the music. Every half hour at night, the fountains come to life. They dance to a song, and it's one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen. And I've always wanted to do something with them. So me and my team, we built a box to literally hijack the fountains and make them do what we wanted them to do instead of what anybody else wanted them to do. We then got a projector, hid it inside the sidewalk in front of the Bellagio, and projected massive images, holography, onto these fountains. I'm going to show you a video of what this looked like. Not many people have ever gotten to see this outside those who participated. The image you're going to see, they're going to present a whole lot of puzzles. Don't try to solve them. I've edited this together so there actually is no way you can possibly solve them. Don't drive yourself crazy, but just watch the awesome.
It's time. My name is Loki. My job is to find the smartest people on the planet. Think you've got what it takes?
So it was kind of fun, right? After that crazy thing, then the fountain show just goes on as if nothing happened. It was great fun. What do you do at the end of a campaign like that? You have to do something as big as the campaign itself. So the person who got to the end of the scavenger hunt before anybody else, we flew them to space. That was pretty fun. Okay, so back to our story. So we're staring at these first 6 days. We've got tremendous opening, but now it's tailoring off. Now it's petering out, and we really need to fix that. And we've got all this knowledge about how to entertain people, how to turn everything into a game, how to let you see games everywhere in the world around you. And we decided that previously what we had been doing is looking at the word crowdfunding a lot like this, all concentrating on the funding. And what we ought to be doing is looking at it like this. And what that means for us is we're never going to talk about money again, and we're going to concentrate 100% on entertaining the community and giving them something to do every damn day of the campaign. We want backers. We want communication. We don't want any more money. We're done with money. We don't need any more money. We got plenty to back our to start our campaign. So all we want to do is entertain people now. So how does that start? Most Kickstarter campaigns have stretch goals. They work just like this. They basically say, hey, we got $10,000. If we get $20,000, we're going to do something even more spectacular. $25,000, we're going to give you more cards. $30,000, some brand new shiny thing. This is how most of them work, but they kind of suck because you can't take action. You've already given them money. They're now asking you for more money. It's a really bad thing to ask your audience. We decided to change ours around. Here's how our stretch goals worked. Our first two, actually, we basically said, you've already got these. We weren't quite sure what they were, but we basically said, we've been running for a week. We're going to give you these two stretch goals. The next two are where we're going to start playing games. And we created two really fun, exciting stretch goals that would whet people's appetite and get them really excited about participating. And then we said, these are tied to achievements. No one's done achievements on a Kickstarter page before. We took down our entire page and rewrote it to look like this. It was just a series of achievements. They all started out grayed out. None of them had anything to do with money, except for the first one, which we just gave them for free and said, hey, you've already got 100% funding. But then they started getting weird. They started saying, hey, create us a Wikipedia page, and we'll unlock an achievement for you. Here's another weird one. 10,000 likes on Facebook, because we don't want this to have anything to do with Kickstarter. Then they got even weirder. A photo of 10 people wearing cat ears, and even weirder still, how about 10 Batmans in one hot tub? On and on they went. They were strange and unusual and really fun, and none of them had anything to do with money. All they did was allowed you to participate in a fun thing every day of the campaign, and just keep coming back. Just keep coming back and talking about it. One by one, the players actually unlocked all but 3 of these things. We can talk about why those were the 3 missing ones afterwards, but we're in a hurry. And we decided to title this whole thing Update 9. You have all these updates that you do during a Kickstarter campaign. This happened to be our 9th one. We wanted people to submit all these really fun photos, but we didn't want them to use old photos, so you have to prove, if this was a hostage situation, we make you hold up a newspaper showing the date on it. But in our case, we basically said, show us photos and have the word Update 9 somewhere in them. Here's what happened. We said post 25 pictures of a beard cat, which is one of the cards in our game, and craziness like this ensued. The community is playing with us, right? They're as excited about this as we are. We're not asking them for money. We're saying, let's just have fun. Let's just throw a party. Next thing we asked them for, 25 pictures of a real taco cat. This is my favorite card in the game because taco cat is a palindrome. And this happened. Okay, one of my favorite things is this one right here. This is an actual cat adoption agency. They took one of their cats and legally renamed it Taco Cat. Those are the papers to prove it right there. Couldn't resist. 10 pictures, 10 Batmans in one hot tub. Someone actually pulled it off. You ask them for easy things. 10 people wearing cat ears. It's a relatively easy one, and a ton of people did it, but it was really neat to see them just show up and get cat ears. You then ask them for harder things, for harder achievements. 50 people. Not many of us have access to 50 people. Think they pulled it off? Yeah, a lot of nods. Yeah, they sure did. A ton of people pulled off the 50. Harder still, 100 people. It's hard enough to find a space that holds 100 people. This one went locked. This stayed locked for the longest time until the final week of the campaign. Someone actually pulled it off. And it's hard to see, but every single person in there is wearing cat ears. There's someone holding a piece of cardboard right there that says Update 9 on it. So, yeah. All right. It got even weirder still. The news showed up at my house. Literally, Fox News knocked on my door. No idea how they knew where I lived. They just showed up and started filming. They had no idea what Kickstarter was either, which was fascinating. CNN showed up. They started covering the story. At this point, things started to get crazy. So crazy that I kind of freaked out a little. I actually had a really hard time focusing on backers and never paying attention to the money, because that was our mantra. Don't pay attention to the money. It's all about the community. So I started putting little sticky notes on my monitor so that I could not see the numbers anymore, so that we could just stay laser focused. So that's what my monitor looked like. This is what Matt's looked like. I think he has like the only car in the world that shows him how much money he's making instead of how much money he's losing while he's driving. It got really bad. This is, I know there's a lot of words on the screen. These are the only words we care about here. This is what happened if you tried to write to me during the campaign. The user you're trying to contact is receiving mail at a rate that prevents additional messages from being delivered. This is the message from Gmail. This is what happens if you get more than 3,300 emails per minute on Gmail. Which was terrifying. Like, we had suddenly gotten this thing to a point where it was getting out of control. The one saving grace is people really liked the game. We sent it out to a bunch of friends, a bunch of family. They took it out into public. People were loving the actual game, and they kept sending us these amazing mails telling us how much they were really loving the game. And then they started doing other stuff, like building plush toys for us, which was so awesome to see. Here's another plush toy of our pigacorn. Balloon animals, those started showing up. We had someone build Legos out of actual cards. There's the cards that each one corresponds to. Like, those are awesome. This guy, by the way, also showed up at my house. I don't know how people keep getting my address. Also showed up at my house and hand-delivered these to us, which was pretty rad. Now they're sitting in our office. Leggings, someone made Exploding Kittens leggings. Some guy made a hologram card, actually hand-delivered that as well, which was pretty rad. They started making videos for us. All right, so you get the idea. We don't need a lot more of that. Our final 3 days, and this is where we'll sort of end it, because I know we're getting short on time, and in case anyone wants to ask any questions, our final 3 days, we decided the last boost that we want to give the community is we keep calling this a party. Let's actually have a party. And so the second to last day, we said, anyone who writes a comment in the Kickstarter forums, we're going to pick Matt's favorite, and he is going to illustrate those comments. So someone wrote, draw me a hybrid of an exploding kitten and a sloth, I will love you forever. And this was the result. We had another comment, a rabbit and a pig happily ever after. That was a fun one. And also, what's a party without pizza? The final day, what we did was we picked a few hundred animal shelters all over the United States. And we basically said, look, lunch is on us. We are going to send a whole bunch of pizzas to every single one of those. In exchange, what we need those shelters to do is to post their location and hours on our Twitter page, because we want our audience to show up at these locations for free lunch, but also to donate their time and resources to those animal shelters, because we basically said, look, we want you to participate. And it was amazing, and tons of people showed up, and it was a big Twitter love fest on that final day as people went crazy kind of participating in local charities that they previously just had no idea existed. So that's kind of how we ramped up and how we ended the last day of our campaign. And on sort of a final note, this is the Kickstarter admin page. If you've ever run a campaign, you know this page really well. You stare at it a lot. But you guys know that feeling? I forget. There's a word for it, a Latin word. I always forget. But it's when you're like standing on top of a cliff or a building and you look out over the edge and you feel it sort of pull to you. And it's not that you're suicidal or you want anything bad to happen. It's just this weird pull, and it's sort of as scary that your brain operates that way at all. That was that button in the bottom left corner for me. Like, I would stare at that button like every single day, and I swear I saw that thing pulsing. It was my own little version. If anyone knows that word, come and find me afterwards. To sum up, this is what we talked about, right? This is Booyah. This is the one-to-one correlation. These guys were the target to beat. All we really had to do was build a community that exceeded this one. So I'm very, very proud to show this next picture here. Here is our messages. Right? Yeah, you can clap for that. I heard someone start to clap. Yeah, really, really proud. And you can see, right, there's where update 9 happened. Really night and day difference. We figured it out. We figured out how to apply those community lessons to a community. And so finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you Booyah. the second most funded game in crowdfunding history. And that's it.
We have a couple of minutes if anybody wants to ask
5
any
minutes,
questions.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, so you guys got funded in like 10 minutes, which is fantastic. And then you're like, oh, let's not worry about the money anymore because we already have it. What if you don't get funded in 10 minutes? Should you still use the stretch goals and the money as like, we seriously need money, guys, like seriously? Or should you do the community and hope that the money comes in a sense?
If you don't get funded, I don't think you should talk about money directly. In that case, you should talk about percentages. Goals are what's important. Game theory is what's important here, right? If you're not funded, if you're 50% funded, what you talk about is we're 50% of the way to our achievement, right? And now we need help because look, here's a progress bar that's 50% full. Now let's hit the rest of it. Dollar amounts are what turns audiences off. But if you talk about it in terms of we're all in this together, we've accomplished this, we have yet to go this, that's motivating. That's really fun. Dollars are a big turnoff.
So obviously you both are fans of humor and funny things, and but did you guys have any like points of tension in this, which was probably like ridiculous? Like, no, it should be exploding kittens. It should be this kitten. You know, like, was there anything that looking back you're like, man, like we had a hard time coming to like that decision?
Matt, if there's anything you want to say, but I think for me, I don't think it was a point of tension. We had very long discussions about the kittens themselves. It's a controversial title, right? Exploding Kittens. We talked for a long time. I actually had a conversation where I said to my teammate, but Matt, what's the kitten's motivation? Like that was serious. Like that wasn't meant to be a joke. And we went through a number of different variations on that. Were these evil kittens who wanted to hurt people? Oh, that feels awful. Were these kittens who terrible things were happening to? Someone was exploding them. Oh, that feels terrible too. We did suicide bomber kittens, all these terrible, terrible things. And finally what we realized is it's funniest if these are kittens doing kitten things. It's a kitten walking across your keyboard. Kittens walk across your keyboard. This happens to be the keyboard for the nuclear launch facility, right? Like, it leads to an explosion, but it's nobody's fault. It's just sort of a negligent owner, right? Kittens, they get into, again, the things in your house that they shouldn't get into. They munch on things they shouldn't. Well, you shouldn't have left that hand grenade lying around, right? Like, and so once we talked through that, it wasn't a conflict. It was a conflict between us and the IP that we had selected. But we came up with, I think, a really clever solution that we were both really happy with.
Yeah, so there's an interesting contrast between the Exploding Kittens / Halo ARGs and then the Windows Vista ARG. Yeah. Obviously, kittens and Halo are things that engender fandom and passion naturally, and then people don't get that excited about like operating systems generally. So how do you deal with the ARG being super exciting and mysterious, and then people find out, oh, but this is for Vista, you know?
Yeah, for that one, what we basically did was inserted characters. The problem with Vista is there's no characters, so we just invented a bunch. People have a hard time relating to a nameless, faceless, nebulous thing. The same problem they would have had for the original game, Bomb Squad, right? There's nothing to it, there's no soul to it. So we went through and we inserted a whole bunch of characters, and we gave them people to worry about, people to care about, people who were in peril, and only the players themselves could rescue them from that peril. And suddenly people cared a whole lot about it. Even, keep in mind, the whole thing, they have no idea why they're doing this. They have no idea what the prize is. The trip to space was actually something we tacked on at the very, very last minute. They know it's related to Vista. We're giving them every opportunity and permission to ignore that fact.
Awesome. One quick question. If you didn't already have the online community that you had in starting this out, what would you have done differently?
If we had to like start from zero? Before any campaign, Kickstarter or otherwise, you build a marketing plan, right? You need to make sure that on day one, you are screaming from the mountaintops to people who are actually paying attention what it is you're doing and why it should matter. That's part one. Most often, the audience that you're screaming to is much smaller than you would like. And so what you have to do is make sure that the place they end up, the link they click, they see something that is so exciting and unique and interesting that then they feel motivated to tell all their friends about it. And this Kickstarter page did a really, really good job of that. If you haven't seen it, go to the page, click the video, and in 90 seconds, I think we can convince you to tell all your friends about this thing.
Okay.
Done.
Yep.
That's it. All right.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic.